Alrighty, I've just been cutting a few cables. We've got to start soldering a few eyelets up, which you can't really see. I've got the VSR there with a couple of eyelets sitting on it. And yeah, some of these, I think I've got to get the battery in the back of the van and grab a charge controller that's back home. And I've got a lot of the other bits and bobs, that fuses and cigarette lighter thinger. I've got that USB thing over. Anyway, I'm going to do a bit of soldering up later. But anyway, I want to get to the point here straight up about Marshall. Now, I have been hearing for the last 18 months this whole thing of, well, I'm almost making enough money off AdSense, but not quite. But, you know, like before too long, I'll make enough money so I can survive totally on AdSense. This has been going on for 18 months, at least. He's almost there, It's, oh my, dude, it's like 18 months, 2 years later, you're still not there. But see, the thing is, he could actually be there with these three main points. But he's suffering from the I am 100% pleasure, 0% responsibility type mentality. You know what I'm talking about. So there's three main points. First of all, get a smaller van that's fuel efficient. For fuck's sake. Like, all the things failing and going on, just, you know, bro, there's a time where either you're willing to put in maintenance in an older machine, or so many times, at least these days, you know, there's machines that they just hit their fucking use-by date, and that's it. And you're just like, it's on a constant dog chase and fucking one, the next, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, what bit is next to blow? I thought that off the top of my head, but that's what it becomes like, you know, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, what bit is next to blow? And it just, you're fucking running around in circles, you know, like a dog chasing its tail. Now, there's a couple of options that he could get. Rosie, you take the van for $2,000. I think a lot of people who are in the market for a cheap RV probably would, even with the astronomical amount of problems, even knowing about all the problems in it. Let's face it, you know, like he doesn't, you know, he doesn't have the money and everything. It just, you know, it's time, I think, for him to hand it on to someone who either knows what they're doing or either looks after it or just, you know, someone who's not living in it full time, or you know, it's time to move on and get something that's fuel efficient. And that being the main point. Never mind all the others, just the pure fact of, if you want to live off AdSense, you've got to get something more efficient than that. Now, there's people living in Ford Transit Connects and all those other little fucking pips, like the Renault Kangoo and the fucking, what is it, the Citroen Berlingo and all those little short-ass things. You know, and there's people that find in that. I'm not saying he goes into that, but he might want something a bit more like the size of what I've got. You know, Hyundai Trajet, you know, like a minivan. You know, mine's like, I think, you know, it's close. It's probably just 6 inches smaller than like a Voyager or something like that. Chrysler Voyager, Chrysler Grand Voyager. And this is the thing, like, I think he'd be good with a Ford Windstar. They have those, there's a 3-litre version, known as the 3-litre Vulcan. Pretty trouble-free engine. And there's a 3.8-litre, the early ones blew head gaskets. And they also had a bunch of transmissions blow, but they noticed that it was only the 3.8-litre blowing the transmissions. A little bit too much power for a transmission that just wasn't built quite solid enough. By the way, that vehicle was designed primarily by a female design team, mainly for soccer mums, but the truth is most of the owners are actually old people who are at the end of their driving days and ready to hand off cars that they have well maintained, very low mileage, and beautifully clean and garaged, usually pretty rust-free. Having said that, they did break a bunch of axles in them, and in the extreme cold and in a lot of salt, the front springs are no good. But you've got to be a fucking idiot to go buy an older van from an area where they put salt on the roads. You want to get it from, I don't know, maybe California when you're down there with Rosie, maybe Arizona while you're there right now, maybe Florida where you've got all your stuff worked out. We saw your passport, it was a drawer's address on the bloody thing. Well, you know, your Florida license, go and register one in Florida, buy one in Florida and get it on the road in Florida. Then you can fuck around with all the stuff in the back. Make your bed, get Rosie to make your bed, get whatever. You can fluff around with all that later, but 2000 was the last year they had the 3 litre. They do even have a cargo van version, and a bunch of them were bought by the United States Postal Service. However, you probably don't want one of those. You'd want one of the ones that's been low mileage, some old girl in Florida, blah, blah, blah. You know, and some of the ones I've seen, like the paint on them is beautiful still. You know, not like mine, which has had a fucking respray. And I've seen a couple of my Hyundais, you know, other Hyundai Trajets, and the paint is fucking atrocious on some of them, particularly on the roof. It seems a little, there's just a little bit in my roof that hasn't been redone. It's sort of between a chrome trim and the edge, and it's like a blue, whereas the rest of it's like a purple. You notice it when you're, when you're up high enough, when you're 6'2". Anyway, especially if you're looking at scratches or you're looking to try and, you know, I got a bit of cutting compound on there a while ago, and that's when you notice when you're rubbing away on the paint. But anyway, I think that'd be a good move for him. They've got vents in the back, a bit like how the Trajet's got the ones in the back for the air conditioning, at least for warmer countries. They've got ones in the back that come out near where the back seat is, but that's your heater, and you push a little button on the front, and you can warm up all your back area with your back heater, just by pushing the right button on the dash. And so anyway, I think that'd be a good move, because like I'm getting like 24 miles per gallon with that thing, you know, 23.5 easily, 22.5 when I'm driving it like a nutcase, going 75 miles an hour, overtaking big rigs and everything. It's still, you know, it's really good on fuel. And that's, you know, 23.5, 24 miles a gallon is what I can get, and at least 22.5 even when I'm really, you know, it goes back to about 22 once you get the roof rack on, you know. But yeah, long and short of it is you can do a lot better. The other one is, and there's not a great deal of them, but they are getting around, and NASA had one, and I've seen a few on, what's his name, on YouTube. That's the 2.4 litre Voyager. Once again, you know, you've seen it on his channel. NASA had to sit angle on in the back of that thing, but don't worry. What about getting the back seats out, especially if they're the stow and go ones where they fold into the floor, and then getting the front seat and just folding it flat. But just get your little, don't fucking pull anything out with a spanner or anything like that. Just get your little bit released that, boom, lets it flip forward. Even if you've got to take your little fucking, your headrest bit off or whatever, you know, and then build your bed over the top of that. Whatever, you know, you'll work something out there. And I mean, you know, NASA got that, and then what did it cost him? It was fuck all, it was like $900 or something, you know? And if you've seen it in the videos on his channel, it's a fucking beautiful vehicle, you know, there's no question about it. I'm not saying that that era of Voyagers was so reliable, but, you know, it's a low consumption option. There's another one which should take a real lot of building, and might actually take a truck camper that I come across called, which we don't have over here, called the GMC Sonova, and it's either 99 or 2000. They had a 2.2 litre automatic pickup truck, two-wheel drive. Doesn't go good with a lot of wind resistance and that, because it has a tendency to keep throwing back into the lower gear because of the small engine, and so it revs the engine higher. Having said that, if you had a short camper that was like a pop top or something where you could wind it up almost like a box on a box type of thing, like, you know, like say you got you know, like this tub of fucking margarine, and you have a box that sort of comes over the top, and you wind it up. So they're sort of like, as this part on the top here, you know, you wind it down and it goes right down to basically the bed of the truck. Or some sort of like a pop top type of setup, so that, you know, and I mean, you'd lose all your stealth ability there, you know, but you put that down before you drive and then pop it up when you get in the back. You know, hey, it's still 2.2 litre. I mean, we don't even have Japanese shit that's pickup truck. The smallest one I can think of is a manual Mitsubishi from 2001 to 2003, because at a place I worked, the foreman actually had one as a company vehicle. I worked there in 2004, and I think this is either 2001 or 2003 model. It wasn't that old at all. But 2.5 litre, but that was a manual. But this is you know, anyway, you know what I'm saying. It's another option for fuel efficiency. The second one, which probably a lot of you don't know or don't see, is that fucking shitbox propane fridge. How many people own a propane fridge? How many people have owned a propane freezer? I've actually got both a propane fridge that I basically never use, and, well, I've actually got one that's half buggered, another one that's a Chinese built one that's small and takes propane like you wouldn't fucking believe. And then I've got the freezer, which is, well, it's 70 litres, 68 or 72 or something like that. It's a big bastard of a freezer, really speaking, in terms of, like, you know, small stuff. And she you might have a bit of fun fitting that in the van, unless you got a decent size. Like, you wouldn't be putting it in a minivan, I'll tell you that right now. She's a pretty big donkey and she's pretty heavy. But that, you know, it goes through a 20-pound bottle every 10 to 14 days, and that's a freezer, and it does actually freeze. But yeah, like, and this one's not that old, you know. It's like 5 years old or something, and you've got these old 1989, and the gas is probably fucked in it, and you barely keep it in. Look, the amount of fucking money you're pissing down the drain in propane just to run that shit for the fucking off. You should have got your solar panel when you got your $1,500 to get it, and then you could get a compressor fridge. Now, one they do is they get the little Dometic CF18, and I think it's only 18 litre, and they use it as a freezer, and they don't have a fridge, they have a polystyrene box and ice packs, and every morning you get up and you swap the ice packs over. Out of the polystyrene box, in the freezer ones, and you're right. And these things are fucking tiny. Tiny little... Now, your polystyrene box can be whatever size you want. Hell, you can have 3 of the fucking things. But your little Dometic CF18, it's tiny. It is fucking small, you know. And you could literally have that in the passenger foot space as you've got your front seat fucking folded down and your bed over the top of it. What you've got left of the passenger foot space, you could put your little freezer in there. You know, you might need to open the passenger door to get your fucking ice cream, but whatever, you know. The other one that's so obvious is all this eating out. For fuck's sake, if the guy lived on a lot more rice and greens and whatnot, and I know in certain areas where you got, you know, farmers and that, I don't know how it works in America, but often enough these people, there's an area I know with a lot of potato farming, and they just sell them on the side of the road there. and they're fucking drunk. They are, sometimes they're equal and sometimes they're less than half the price of the fucking shops, you know, and it's potatoes, and there's miles and miles of potato farms, and then there's a lot of people selling them. And then, you know, you just turn up there and you got a little box to throw your money in and you pick up your fucking bags and you go, you know. But even having said that, like rice and, you know, you can buy beans by the 5-gallon bucket. You literally can, you know, and they have them for restaurants, but you can get these things, you know, and they're fucking worth nothing when you buy them like it. More fuel efficient van, cook more instead of eating out, and get rid of that fucking propane fridge, and you probably could live off AdSense alone. But see, too much of a lame duck, and you're just going to suffer and then need donations. Too dumb, too much ego, and an inability to do anything without somebody doing it for him. Like all this, I want to get rid of all the chipboard in this van. You know why they got chipboard, dumbass? It's not just cheaping out, it's because it's so damn lightweight compared to actual timber and plywood. Plywood's not too, well, it's not too light either, to be honest. It's not, because I've dealt with a lot of it. And, you know, unless it's real thin plywood, it's not too light. Chipboard may be weak, but it is fucking so lightweight, you can pick up a sheet of it with your teeth. And that's not a joke. You're like, it's a 2-finger thing versus a 2-hands thing, you know, and it really is. And then, oh, I want to get rid of all that. Well, fuck, there goes your fuel consumption, you know. I'm not saying build a new van and use 100% chipboard, but just realise that Coachman uses chipboard for its lightweight. Not just its cheapness, but its lightweight also. Chipboard isn't great, you know. Apparently some people try and use it to make bed frames and it just starts crumbling under people's weight before too long. Even if it's 3/4 inch chipboard, it's just, you know. But, okay, make your bed out of ply and your cabinets out of chipboard. There you go. How's that for an idea? Or use that thin shit like I've got that's not quite 3/8 of an inch chipboard and plywood. And that's not too bad. You know, when you're using you just go for, like, you know, hell, some of this stuff, never mind 3/8 of an inch, you could probably go fucking 1/4 inch, you know, and you'd be fine. You'd be good enough. It's only a fucking drawer, isn't it, or a little, you know, as long as he's not weighing a heap of stuff on it, it shouldn't be too much of a big deal. But anyway, don't expect him to take any advice, because every bit of advice he's given is just overblown by his ego and his pleasure-based mentality, and yeah.